I always say there's a power of 5 in what should be a legacy and a trust setup. The goal of a trust, in my opinion, is to get in and out of court upon someone's death as fast as you can, retain all assets, retain bank accounts, retain total activity. Most people don't even know what they want this month, much less a year, much less a lifetime, and much less a legacy. Upon death, depending on how people lived it, the heirs, especially the immediate, they either inherit a mess or a pretty organized system of planning and wealth.
What's going on, everybody? Chris Naugle back with the Money School podcast, where we talk about money, but more specifically, how to control your money. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. I've got a friend of mine from way back, somebody that I used to see all the time on the road, but she got smart and got off the road, but she didn't stop building businesses. She didn't stop making millionaires. And she certainly hasn't stopped teaching people the truth about money. And that's what we're going to talk about. But let me just give you a couple accolades about my guest. First off, a wealth expert, but not just regionally, globally. 6-time New York Times bestseller, CEO of Integrated Wealth Systems. She's been in multiple areas of finance and mentoring since 1996, everything from real estate, business acquisitions, oil, gold, and lots more. But one of the best things that she teaches is right in line with what we do. It's how to make money, how to invest money, and most importantly, how to keep money. Because we're not trying to teach you how to be rich here. We're trying to show you how to be wealthy. And the biggest difference between being rich and being wealthy is the wealthy have figured out how not to give the money back. Let me welcome to this podcast, Laurel Langmeyer. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here. It's good to see you, Chris. I think the last time I saw you was San Diego with Scott.
Absolutely.
I think it's been years. Was that pre-COVID, post-COVID? I think it was pre-COVID, right?
It was, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, it's funny how much time has passed since the pandemic, but yet it still feels like it was yesterday.
I know. I came off the road March 7th, 2020. And as you know, I was all stage TV, Dr. Phil's money expert, did all that. And then, you arrive home and 29 stages cancel, every TV show cancels, and you're like, what am I going to do? Yeah. So we went and armed forces with a whole bunch of online social folks and taught us how to get it done. And we have a massive YouTube channel. So it's Laurel Langmeyer, the Millionaire Maker, right? After the main book, we relaunched the book, we relaunched the website, we relaunched the brand, and we've just chose to stay home. I said, I gave a lot of years, 6 continents, all but Antarctica. I've taught all over the world, but took my kids everywhere. And these last 5 years, I can tell, have been amazing. And we'll talk on another podcast, not today, about my cannabis farm. So I have one of the largest acreages of farming here in Nevada. And I've been doing a lot of that. I was born a Nebraska farm girl, and now I'm probably going to die a Nevada cannabis farm girl. So it's a funny transition, Chris. I'm off the road for the most part. I mean, there's still some special friends and folks that I'll go out and do events for. But as far as the road warrior and getting a private plane again to go everywhere and do all that those days are over. I'm enjoying being home. A lot healthier too.
Yeah, well, I can speak to that. I mean, I have not, during the pandemic, it's funny how you talked about recreating yourself, but that's what, all of us do is we create, right? And you recreated yourself, but you got off the road and you stayed off the road. Now I got off the road, did the same thing with the YouTube channel, all the social media, leaned heavily into that, had massive success, but I've been back on the road and it is killing me. And I don't mean that literally. I mean that actually, it is killing me. So I got to figure out how to get off the road eventually.
You drink out, you don't get good sleep. You're in different hotel beds. Like there's an endurance and a capacity. Don't you notice, like, to build to even be able to do that? Like I look at now, I'll go out to one show. It might be 2 or 3 days. Like I've been a money expert, so very selective communities. So I'm a money expert in some big Cairo communities. I've got some different real estate communities. So I'll go to them. But it's interesting when you're on the road, even for 3 nights in a row, it's like, I can't wait to get home. You really had to build up endurance, because I look back, Chris, and I think the days where I was doing I saw you all the time back on the time. 3 to 5 shows a week is not uncommon. I mean, sometimes 4 or 5 and sometimes all day. The capacity and the endurance to live on the road. I don't think they always say, I'm going to travel. I can't wait to do it. You and I are like, been there, done that. I mean, I want to do highly selective travel my way. And anyway, but I will do this till the day I die. That's one thing Bob Proctor taught me. I wrote, which I didn't tell you this. I got the last endorsement of Bob Proctor's life right there.
Oh, he's a great man.
4 days before he passed. And I remember talking to him about this because he's been around during the birth of both of my children. And I mean, he's watched me grow up since I was 21 years old. So what a great man he was. And he said, if you love it as much as I love it, and I know you love what you do, he says, just do it till the day you die. And then 4 days later, he did. I was like, wow. So that's my new commitment too. I love being high touch with my clients. I let all my clients get my cell phone now. So I just have more time to be more mindful about the work. And obviously my canvas farm is a huge other reason that I did stay home is my farm's 2 hours away from where I live. And it's a massive commitment to be out there. But I'm excited.
Yeah. So let's dive right into this. There's very few people I can have discussions like we're going to have today. And folks, just so you know, when I start these podcasts, I never have a direction. I didn't spend time offline, outside of talking travel with Laurel about what we're going to talk about. We just go, but we've been doing this money education for so long. It's just a great conversation. So you've helped 10,000 clients. You're now a 7-figure earner. But the thing that most people listening to this want to know is, where did you start and how did you get to this point? What was the journey like? So let's just start there. What was your journey? I know, farm girl from an early days, but how did you become the millionaire maker and how did you get to this place?
Version 2. I know, right? If you had ever told me farm girl from Nebraska would be doing this, first of all, I'd say you're out of your mind. It's nothing. I had no interest in any of that. I was very 4-H and FFA and agricultural centric and rodeoed with my dad and my family. And so, none of that life. Did play basketball, was a huge music. A lot of people don't know that chapter of my life. I played French horn for 14 years. So I have a huge musical background. So I had two choices to go music or athletics in school. So I went athletics. Anyway, at 17, Chris, was my first personal development workshop, right? The basketball team all went, and I saw Dennis Waitley was the keynote. And, he was one of those, old school guys who were like, run to the front of the room and get your stuff. So guess what book I got when I ran to the front of the room at 17 years old? Think and Grow Rich. So that was my definitive, I remember vividly reading, consuming it multiple times. This is a life. This is the cool shit you can do in your life. I was like, wow, you can totally do whatever you want. You can think like you want. You can decide like you want. You mastermind the team approach. So instead of going to school to be a lawyer, because I love debating, I changed to business finance and got a bachelor's degree. Went to an investment bank for about not even a day. Seriously. I'm like, it
was too long. A day is too long in investment banking.
I think it was 4 minutes, really. I really was everybody's in stuffy suits, and this was in the 80s. I'm like, there's no way. And everybody takes a 10-minute break and then has lunch. It's eat when you want, do what you want. That whole thing was weird to me. So went back to school, got my master's in exercise physiology. So the first chapter, most of my 20s, I was in corporate wellness, had a very, very lucrative personal training, aerobics instruction, did his whole certification program. And then Chevron found me when I was 24, and I did a multi-million-dollar contract to build 272 fitness centers on offshore oil rigs. So I moved to New Orleans. I flew offshore in a helicopter almost every day. Which they said, you better protect your hearing because here, years later in my 50s, I have 31% loss and 27% loss from those lovely days in my 20s that I didn't pay attention to what older people said. You guys should really pay attention to us older people because, history, wisdom. So then I don't remember. Then I met Bob Proctor, and I just remember it's Bob, I want to get back to that whole money conversation, the Think and Grow Rich. And, when he's a Napoleon Hill, junkie, right? I mean, he could recite Napoleon Hill. Bob could. If you guys don't know Bob Proctor, the man was a legend, is a legend. And so he said, well, I think I have a transition for you. This was 1996. So fast forward a lot of years. I ended up living in San Francisco, traveled all over the world for Chevron, building fitness centers. So I knew that I got the travel bug during those eras. And so I knew that whatever I did do, and when I became a parent, I was going to travel with my kids a lot because I didn't have that experience. Anyway, so Bob said, well, you got to get on a plane tomorrow and go to Scottsdale. And he said, you're going to sit at a woman's house, Sharon Lecter, and you're going to make a deal for this game they have because they want to focus on the book called Think and Grow Rich. And I'm like, whatever, I'll just do what Bob says because that's what you do. So I jumped on a plane. Do you even know this story? Have I told you this story?
Yeah, I've heard you told us. I think we were in Arizona when I heard this story about, this first initial game visit, if you will.
So I'm sitting around a kitchen table, and so I go in as a, exercise physiologist for Chevron, and I walk out the master distributor of a game. You talk about an identity crisis, and I'd been, by then I became an employee of Chevron, so to jump back in the entrepreneurial world was so freeing. But also a little daunting, because you go from a lot of structure to now you have to create your structure, create marketing, create sales, and create it all again. So that's what got me back over here. And then in 1999, became a real estate millionaire. And McGraw-Hill found me, offered me a three-book, seven-figure deal just to do this and two other Millionaire Maker books. So it's a series of three. It's this one, Cash Machine for Life is how do you build a seven-figure business. And then Wealth Cycle Investing is how do you invest in all alternatives, gas and oil, real estate, mineral rights, water rights, aviation, like all the things, right, that wealthy people do. Insurance, where you are heavily. So it's huge. And I'd say the rest is kind of history. Otherwise, I've made about 10,000 millionaires. And then once my kids got to be adults, 18 and 25 today, I wrote how I did this with them. So it's been fun. It's been an interesting journey. And, I'm spending a lot of time now showing you all my little goodies on legacy. So how do you create now that, you like, I'm sure you're the same with your family, right? You get the kids, you do them a certain way. When they become adults at 18, they both got LLCs for their birthday. And we just keep building and then, creating a legacy for them and their kids and their kids and their kids and their kids. And what I don't want is the statistic of 2.6 years is the average statistic of what how long a legacy stands, which means your grandkids blow it because there's not enough direction in the trust. There's not a direction on where, the insurance is funding into the trust, how they have to behave to access the money. Is it a non-depletion trust? There's just a lot about how do you actually keep the legacy going because most people blow it. Because they don't train their kids. And that's a huge, huge initiative that I have right now is if you're going to inherit money, you better do it right and into the right structure so you don't get killed in tax because it's not planned. And you actually have a legacy for your family. So I'm enjoying it. I'm having a lot of fun right now in the content with the clients. I love to get my cell phone. We just had a week ago today, we were finishing Monday and Tuesday last week, 20th and 29th of April. We had 300 people in a room for our 25th anniversary of my big table. So that's where the Millionaires are made. It was so much fun. So when it's like your own gig, it was really fun. It was awesome.
Let's talk a little bit about, just because you brought it up, trust.
Yep.
A lot of people, and I've seen this more and more now than I've ever seen it. There's a lot of people out there peddling trust, and I know you have a trust company, so you can speak with a lot of experience on this. But people literally think a trust is a magic thing that, like, you go out and you buy a trust and everything's done. But it's more about what language is in the trust, making sure that you have the proper trust structure for your needs and goals, which most people don't even know their needs and goals before they buy the trust. They're just sold this bill of goods, I guess you would say. And I know you're seeing this, but let's talk just a little bit about the language, because I spent months creating my trust structure, but it didn't take months creating the trust structure. That took about 10 minutes on a piece of paper. What took all the time is figuring out how I want my wealth that I have built during my lifetime to pass on to my children and my spouse, but then not just how it passes to them, how it passes to then their kids and then their kids and then their kids, and how all of them, this was my goal. I wanted to make sure that every kid ever born into my name, my family, would remember Grandpa Chris. And how I do that is my trust is the language in there makes it so that every kid on their birthday gets a check from Grandpa Chris. And there's no better way to make sure that everybody remembers your name than every year they get a check from Grandpa. a grandpa that they never met. But the language is so much more important than just that check. It's how they can't squander the wealth in the second generation or third generation. So can you speak a little bit about how you, or just how you've helped clients structure trusts and the mistakes that are being made out there? Because all you ever hear anymore is trust structures so that people pay no taxes. And I went down that rabbit hole, and I had to unwind a trust structure, which cost me in excess of hundreds of thousands of dollars unwinding it because I was given bad advice. Are you seeing those same things?
Huge. And, football is my favorite sport. My son played D1 football. But now, Safford and his wife are peddling. I mean, let's be honest, they're paid spokespeople. So again,
Yes.
People have no clue what TV is. It's entertainment. When I was Dr. Phil's money expert, and I'm just going to back pedals because I call it the 99-cent store. There's so many trusts and wills that are like from the 99-cent store, meaning $99, $199, absolutely no help, absolutely no advice. So people just click some buttons, and it's so, I'd say, unethical, quite frankly, because they're just peddling. And it started, let's go all the way back, Chris, Susie Orman, right? The $35 will, she did it out on PBS and sold, hundreds of millions of them, which they're pieces of crap. I ordered one myself. They come in this little flimsy box, absolutely no clue what to do. And a will, just so you all know, I always call the will your stuff, right? Who's going to get your stuff, right? Who's going to get my magic wand? I got a magic wand last year because everybody thinks I have one, so I thought I should get one. It's really
It's just funny. That's funny because it's literally right next to you.
to get it because everyone's like, I have a magic wand. It's like, oh, actually, I do now. It's funny. Yeah. But it's the stuff. So my kids are going to fight over that. I might get another one. The trust is how you avoid probate. And Chris, I have heard what drives me crazy is those, paid people, and they're great people, but they're just paid actors and actresses to tell you to go buy something, and without any education, hook, line, and sinker, people go buy this $199 trust. Well, you can't get anything done. You don't even get the right documents. A trust binder is typically this big. It's a big binder with a lot of tabs done right, with everything that you need from powers of attorney, health, and financial. It has all of your insurances completely laid out. It has a complete plan. And as far as the language of it, I always say there's a power of 5 in what should be a legacy and a trust setup, right? So usually I'm their facilitator, advocate. That's really how I don't really call myself a coach anymore. A little bit of mentor, but I really help facilitate their family's life down the road. There has to be an estate lawyer in the state that signs it, and you need to move it as fast as you move. So I just had a couple that moved from California to Tennessee. 5 weeks later, the gentleman, my male client, and actually these guys, I don't know if you knew them, but actually I'm pretty sure you did because they were big event people. Anyway, bill passed. Michelle's left alone, and the trust is in California, but their new residency is in Tennessee. She is living through an amazing, horrible experience. Again, more lessons to everybody listening. Get it done and get it done quick. And if you move states and residence, it has to go with you because you're going to probate where your trust is. So here she's back in California living through unbelievable probate hell. But a trust done really well keeps you out of probate. So again, it's whoever's going to help navigate and educate, which would be me on the team. There's an estate lawyer. There's a U for insurance. There is a highly strategic tax strategist, not a light CPA, not somebody who knows a little on the side, truly knows the basis of that. And I'm missing one. Your accountant, your corporate compliance and corporate structure, because if your corporations and your corporate compliance aren't accurate into the trust, that could kick you into a whole nother legal battle in a probate court. The goal of a trust, in my opinion, is to get in and out of court upon someone's death as fast as you can, retain all assets, retain bank accounts, retain total activity. So small things that I do is, I start very early, 18, starting to put my kids just as signers, not necessarily even a shareholder, but all bank accounts have joint signatures. So if anything happens to me, the accounts don't freeze. Everyone keeps moving as another legal adult. So I do a lot of protective measures. And how did I learn them all? All my clients and the amount of clients that have passed on and the amount of families I've had to help live through this it's going to happen to you. And here's what I'd say to all of you. You have a plan. You're either going to sit with Chris and I or a team and design a plan for this to be done right. But this was a 3-day workshop we just put on, which is how do you do it right with those 5 people on a team? It's not just an estate lawyer. It can be. It's not enough people, and especially in the tax side, if you want to walk out of there not getting scathed in tax. And right now you can pass on over 11 million to each heir on tax done right through ILETs. So again, right, so now let's move to the trust. So there's a team, there's the intention of why you want to do it. A will and a trust are very different. There should be a pour over will, which is if you forgot anything, it's going with it anyway. There's all these sections that you build up into the trust. When you get to the conversation you were having is how do you make sure people behave? It is through, I love your idea of a birthday check. That's a great one. I might have to borrow that, just amend and add to it. But there's also what we put in is non-depletion. So non-depletion is a section. It's not all of it because I do want to have them have, some nice distributions upon my passing. But the core of it is to borrow against, treat it like a bank. You think about how the Rockefellers did it. You treat it like a bank, so they have to learn a business plan. They can borrow against it. They have to return against it. I haven't put in place the board, but there will be a board. Part of them are named, part of them not named quite yet. Don't plan on going anywhere for a while, but they are named if it happened, if I had an accident. And so the board then oversees. So it's like having a trustee, but mine's 3 people that they have to get approval, whether they can take anything more than 6 figures for sure and borrow to go buy a business, buy something. If they're not, let's talk about the basics. If they're not in good standing as a citizen, they're doing drugs, alcohol, they're just doing abusive things, treating people like crap, not running businesses accurately. So there's a lot of behavior that I built into mine. They have to behave. If they get divorced, the spouse, I guess they'll be surviving, but the spouse will be taken care of in the lifestyle that they got accustomed, and that's it. There's not a big. They can't touch it. There's no alimony. There's no lifelong child support. And then for the most part, a lot of it will do what's called generational skipping and skip to the grandkids to avoid the mess and the fight. But any of my kids, it stays in the family. It stays in the Langmeyer legacy. A huge way to do that. The other thing that I put away is I have huge tubs of all my work. I have a game. I got 6 New York Times. I've got over 50-something real books, really. A lot of, really cool stuff from Dr. Phil and The Secret, Bob. Just cool stuff. So I have kind of a legacy war chest. And I put together, I think, a whole bunch of them. They're all over my garage. And that's for the grandkids. And then to pass it on to the great grandkids. Because what I want is for them to remember, Grandma Laurel. Actually, they're going to call me Glam Glam. They've already said that's going to be my name because I love bling. And so they're all going to get this and they're all going to know where their family came from. So, and a lot of that too is just time. Like I don't have them with me back here, but like teaching kids early to journal, to do goal setting. Like I started goal setting with my kids at 3. They had little tiny companies, little, kid companies at 4 and 5 years old, whether it's a smoothie or slime or a little jewelry thing or a little art thing, whatever it is. But they learn to make their own money. Mom was never the bank. They know when they can come do loans. They know that we can have a conversation. We know we can partner. So it's growing them up, which was a huge part of the Make Your Kids Millionaires, of how you bring your kids into this and who do you want to be. And to your point, Chris, I think you got to go all the way back to most people don't even know what they want this month, much less a year, much less a lifetime, and much less a legacy. So it's some mindfulness around what do you want. And, what I love about the community I put together is this is a place for those, like these, 300 people in the room. This is hundreds of families talking about these conversations. So I think this is a conversation where we would tee this up. Now talk at your tables. There's 8 to 10 people at your table. What do you want? So it provides a space for people to have conversations that aren't just opinions of your neighbors, and your relatives, these are people getting trained into the work of becoming a millionaire, or they're already a multimillionaire. I have a lot of people already multimillionaires. They come because I have the best tax team. I think I have the best tax teams in the country. They're so good. I mean, their taxes are so low. So a lot of our high net worth people come just for the tax team. They don't really care about anything else. But then they do get interested in the legacy. They're like, I haven't given enough attention to that with my estate lawyer. So we don't necessarily replace teammates when people come in, but we get them to learn to behave together better on behalf of the family. And a lot of teammates, as you know, Chris, I mean, our financial services industry is so segregated. You know, when I just said that power of 5 people, getting those 5 to get on a call for you, good luck. I mean, any of you watching, good luck trying to get those people to come together. And then do you know enough to facilitate a conversation with those experts? And I'm going to say no. So that's where I exist. I exist in a lot of those family conversations, tax conversations, just moving the family along. I'm not giving an advice necessarily. I'm just being very mindful about the things they need to be thinking about that no one's ever told them to think about.
That is a lot of it right there. Just getting people to talk about things that they've never thought about before.
And where's the forum to talk about them? I mean, I don't care what school you go to, even if you looked at entrepreneurial curriculums, which I'm sure you have, because I know you and I are similar. The entrepreneurial curriculums are nothing more than a business administration professor who just put on an entrepreneurial hat and pulled off some books on the shelf. I've asked to be an adjunct professor at so many entrepreneurial universities and bring all my books and give my books for free to the students. Guess why I've been told no 100% of the time? I've been a guest speaker. That's different than getting a class to be an adjunct professor to really teach some badass entrepreneurial, juice. And so why don't they let somebody like me come? They wouldn't let you come either, probably. Because we are not tenured professors. So the professors are threatened by our books, the magnitude we come with. They don't realize our agenda. I'm not going to be a university professor. I just want to help this next batch of entrepreneurial kids get it right. And if you've never had a business, how can you teach entrepreneurialism? There's just so much wrong with, a lot of things. So anyway, the forum of having conversations in a safe, accurate place, and I'm going to say accurate because there's so much crap on the internet. I call the internet the bathroom wall now, Chris. It's
pretty bad.
It's the bathroom wall. Anybody can write anything about anybody. And there's the deep web, and it doesn't get erased. And it's rough. And you don't know how to validate out there. And people use social media as a validating tool. It's so ridiculous.
Your real estate business lives and dies by the network and the connections that you make. I mean, after all, your network, well, it's your net worth. That's what you always heard, right? If that's an area where you desire improvement, well, Private Money Club, it's for you. PMC saves you precious time and money by bringing the real estate world, well, right to you, right in the palm of your hand. So get in on the action, like so many others have, by going to privatemoneyclub.com and sign up.
But anyway, back to legacy and trust. I love the conversation. What are some other language things you put in your trusts?
Yeah, I mean, so it's long and in depth. So essentially you hit on some of them, the Rockefeller method, the family banking system. So obviously it's no secret, I'm in the insurance business. So I do specially designed and engineered whole life that we use for the infinite banking concept, which is a process, not a product. It's a process of taking back the banking function. So I incorporated that entire message and everything I teach into the trust language. And I broke it down to the 6 laws of wealth. Okay. And I teach, what I taught my daughter through my TEDx talk, my children's book, and many other things, including the letter that I wrote her, is essentially how she's going to use money, but how money is specifically going to work for her. So you had mentioned, with the Rockefellers. So my trust language is very specific on how she or anyone through in my family is able to access the legacy that I leave, which will be lots of life insurance money and other things. But all of it goes into a pool within the trust. That money doesn't just get paid to the beneficiaries upon my death, not even close. Yes, they will get a small distribution, probably much smaller than what you're leaving, but they're going to have access to hundreds of millions of dollars, but they have to access that money in a very regimented way. The same way they would access money if they went to a traditional bank. They would put together a loan proposal or they would put together a loan request. she will have to go to the trustees, appointed trustees that I will kind of put in place. And I also have a plan and language in there on how future trustees will be chosen to manage this. So she comes to them and says, hey, I want to start a business. I need, $50,000. She has a business proposal. The trustees will review it and they will be basically authorized to always issue the loan to the family member. So Vivi, my daughter, would get the loan and she would have to set up a loan repayment. Now she can set the terms for that loan repayment, but it always must be principal and interest at a rate very similar to what a bank would charge. I allow up to 1% less than what a bank would charge. She has to repay that. Now, if there's ever times where she runs short, doesn't have it, she just has to notify them, but she always has to make payments back to the family banking system. Now, if there's ever a time a business fails, let's just say she borrowed 50 grand, that business failed. Great. As long as she learned, that's it. But the trust is mandated for everybody born in the family to have life insurance. So the trust will buy life insurance on Vivi up to the amount of her usage and then some throughout her lifetime. So most of that life insurance is put in place for my daughter because I only have one now, but most of that is put in place in the first 5 years because we know insurability is going to be there. The cost of insurance is very low and we can get a lot of death benefit for a little bit of money, plus the cash value will grow exponentially over time. So that's how it's structured. And that language continues on how she's to use it for everything, cars and everything else. And then I mentioned the birthday checks. That's just my legacy so that no one because most people will remember a grandfather for one generation. After that, that person's never remembered again outside of a photo in a scrapbook somewhere. And like, listen, in our time, we don't have scrapbooks. We have phones. So what happens to all the memories in a phone when we die? I don't even really think we've talked about that or seen that because really they live in a cloud. But if this phone is lost or they don't know the passwords, all those pictures, those memories are gone. It's not like the old day of photo albums where we actually had those. So these are just different things. And I'm constantly rethinking the language in my trust. I work with a really good tax attorney. So there's a lot of language in there that was put in because of the tax attorney and proper ways to structure it there. But that's really what it is. It's just making sure that every family member has access to the capital, but is always replenishing the capital. And then when every family member graduates, nice way of saying when they die, that pool of money is replenished with the death benefit in a tax-free nature so that the next generation has more money to use than the prior generation, more money to grow the businesses, more money to live, a more fulfilled life. And most importantly, we have a foundation, a private foundation, which we're very passionate about. We bring our daughter, even though she's 4, going to be 5 here this month. We're teaching her the power and the importance of giving through all the things. And we donate a lot of money to our private school. We're building an art center, which is going to double down as a financial education center. So with us funding that, we're also going to have the right to do education in finance and money and teach the kids, the parents,
I
and
have
the
some
students.
really good books you need to add to that foundation library.
Absolutely. So, those are the things that we're teaching our daughter, how to do now, but also she'll take that knowledge and that's all in the trust language and she'll be able to teach that to her kids and her kids and her kids.
Love that. And, the thing, too, that I haven't done yet, but my daughter found it she and I went on some college trips. So she's headed to Flagstaff. So she chose NAU. They chose her. She chose them. So in August, she leaves to go to college. So last year we were there visiting. Went to this cute little store and there was journals about the legacy of mom, the legacy of dad, the legacy of grandma and grandpa. So we bought a book just to see what's all in the book. It was so interesting how it lays it all out. And I said, it's going to be good to be in a book, but then it's only going to be with you. So our goal with that is to eventually through her college, make this into a video of grandma, right? of Mom Laurel. So you take, like you said, the photos out of here, and you move them in. The other asset, and I have to introduce you to her, she's a client of mine, she's an estate lawyer. She came to me kind of burnt on being a lawyer and really is high. I actually met her at a KEEP Infusionsoft conference. That's where I met her. And then she became a client of mine. She said, I really am digging all this tech. And as we got to talking, and again, financial services world is extremely segregated. So you might have a vault with your corporate, compliance people, a vault with your trust, a vault with your CPA, a vault, right? That just goes on. So what she's built now for $47 a month per family, she was going to do it she did do it for lawyers. So you can imagine a lawyer that has one portal vault that you can assign, but everything in your life is there. So that's what she built. And I said, yeah, but I want to change lawyers, and my lawyer passes or something happens. I want my activity, and it's harder to get in those situations. So for $47, she built for a family a complete integrated vault that can hold everything that you and I've just talked about. And then you can log in, you can assign the rights to the tax person to see this section, your insurance people to see this section. Your lender, if your lender needs to see something, they can see that section of your tax returns and P&L. So you can load as much as you want in there, and then there's a whole photo section.
That's awesome.
It's just a cool legacy vault, is what it's called, to store everything about the legacy. And so it just launched. I'm super excited for her. I'm going to be one of her early stage people just to load all my stuff in, see how it goes. But those kind of tools, I think, in the future are going to help a lot of families keep it together. Because wouldn't you agree, Chris, too, that upon death, depending on how people lived it, the heirs, especially the immediate, they either inherit a mess or a pretty organized system of planning and wealth.
I would agree, but I think there's far more messes than there are properly planned.
99% are messes.
Yeah, okay, there we go.
Nobody wants to deal with it. So they just so what most people do, and how legacies and why they're, I also think just behaviorally they've never really existed, is because everybody's just kind of scrambling through their life, not even thinking about it. And then, they graduate, as you say, and the kids are left with a mess. And they don't even know where the deeds are. They don't know where the stock certificates are. They don't know where anything is. So part of it about this legacy is getting organized. And I can tell you just that alone probably keeps 50% of the people away from me for a while, because they're like, I don't want to deal with it. I don't have time. And it's like, well, you're just kicking the can down the road to the next generation who has to deal with the mess. And a lot of times they'll blow it. Like I'm seeing families that now I've acquired, but in the immediacy, they'll just sell everything off because there's also learning to deal with the asset, like learning, right now, Logan's the sole heir of the marijuana farm, for example, because you have to be 21. So I can't even put her in there until she's 21. That's 3 years from now. And so for now, I take him to the farm. He has to know wherever all the keys to the kingdom are. If anything happens to me, that is a massive asset. I mean, he just can't sell it. It's a pristine license, right? There's all these different assets. So we're kind of reviewing them. And I think that's another part of the child's development as they get into their teen and young adult years, is reviewing what you have. Like I've taken him to Kansas to see how many apartments and the doors we own. And, my daughter's been to our wellness center in Ohio that we own with another family. Like, these are assets that they're either going to keep or they're going to sell, and they will either disrupt the entire business upon a sale or end up with a big tax burden. And nobody thinks this through or talks it through with the kids. So if you really had to back it all up and say, what's this all about? It's the people who want to be organized and have a legacy life, or those who just want to get through life and hand off whatever mess they made. And I find the latter is actually what most people do. It's unfortunate.
And you do trainings where you walk people step by step through all this, don't you?
100%. 100%. Yep.
Because I'm sure there's a lot of people listening in audience, if you're listening, comment below, but you're thinking, oh my God, that's so much stuff. And you just nailed it. I don't have time to know all of that, but you don't need to know all this stuff. You just have to get around the right people, and then they will do the bulk of the work. Listen, if you think everything I did with my trust structures and everything I've done was all done by me sitting down with a pencil, no, it was using tax attorneys and professionals that know and have done this hundreds, if not thousands of times, that have literally given me bits and pieces. Now, I kind of had to construct what I wanted from it, what my needs and goals were, but they gave me the language. They gave me the ideas of, this is how we've done it for this family. This is how it worked for that family. So, again, when you're hearing all that, I know it's kind of like drinking from a faucet or a fire hose, actually, but just know, all you need to do is get around the right people. They've already done it, sometimes thousands of times, and they will just basically show you the way. And then you just need to add your flavor to it, right? Maybe you don't like lemon lime and you want the raspberry flavored. Great. That's all you need to know, is what is it that your needs and goals are. Let the experts do the rest of the work. So can you just talk a little bit about how you've helped people navigate this difficult landscape of trust and planning and leaving proper legacies, that 1% of the people that are prepared? How have you done that?
Well, through all the books and the work that I've done, but the big one was in the fall of 2022 is when we did this 3-day legacy workshop. We filmed it. We did a 3-year, it was a 3-year process. And again, not really a program, a process. So we did 3 days with all 5 of those team members. Everybody met them. We dug deep. We started filling out these journal, these vaults, the information needed in a vault. And then a year later, we did another review. So I'm really your advocate, your educator, to talk to your family, talk about the differences in the family, talk about the trust structures. I mean, sometimes some families can get away with one, but if the kids are really different, their goals are really different, which is pretty common now, then each kid could have their own trust. And so what's the best structure to hold it together that it doesn't fall apart? Because again, you leave the kids the mess, what ends up happening a majority of the time too, the kids all start fighting and end up in litigation because they don't want
the worst.
They don't want the land. They don't want this. They want cash. They want to just go buy the Lamborghini or the new car. So like if you have those kind of kids, I mean, it's just like, again, stage it to be successful while you're alive. I mean, why build any of this if you're not going to do it right? I mean, just for your ego, that's an interesting idea. But if you're really going to do it with mindfulness and purpose, then you are involved. So I work at them really as their advocator. And it's really, I've grown into that role more. I started more as a financial coach and then more of a mentor. And now I have a whole army of coaches, a whole army of financial experts. I stay the educator and not licensed intentionally because I can talk freely.
Absolutely.
Without broker-dealer scripts, without all the restrictions around me. So I just kind of really picked that path. Dr. Phil actually helped me a lot when he, taught me that TV is 100% entertainment. Don't be mesmerized by anything that's educational about it. I mean, that's why. Yeah, I mean, I go into the whole TV thing. So I just knew that that's who I was going to be, and I love the education part. And again, I'm going to do it. I love this part of my life. And then I have other things. I'm in real estate. I'm in gas and oil. I'm cannabis. I'm just getting ready to buy a bunch of water rights in June. So I do a lot of other businesses because I love them. But this is my core, and I love helping families get it right, because it's heartbreaking. And for those of you that are out there just listening, going, well, I'll get around to it. Like Chris said, our teams will do a lot for you. Mine will be the conversation and have you make some decisions as quickly as you can make them. And then, like he said, the teams of people, we have teams of paralegals, they're going to put all these documents together. They're going to make sure it's notarized, your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed, and that the documents really get in there. Because those 99-cent store or those online portals, you don't even have any help. You don't even know if you're clicking the right button. You don't even know the difference between revocable and irrevocable trust or an ILET trust or a non-depletion trust. Like, you don't have enough knowledge to make those decisions. I actually won't make those decisions for you either. I'm just going to educate you on the pros and cons, and then the lawyers and the legal compliance teams will actually help you make those decisions, and then they'll do the work. So a lot of it's just you've got to be in the purposefulness of, I want this kind of life and I need to get it organized.
Well, let's pivot a little bit. I want to talk about something that I think is on most people's minds today, and that is, where we're at in this economic cycle. And, people are starting to really feel the pinch. I mean, we talk to hundreds and hundreds of people every single month. I'm seeing it frontline. Credit card debt tells a story. If you look at statistics, we're at the highest credit card debt we've ever been at, well over $1 trillion in credit card debt. And now we're starting to see those delinquencies creep in, starting to see the defaults come up. I mean, the charts don't lie. The data's all there. We are entering an interesting time, which is weird because just a few short years ago, going back to like when you got off the road, I almost said we got off the road, but when the pandemic hit, savings rates were going up at that time and debts were going down. And then when the world opened back up, everybody went out and started spending like it's 1999, like the world's ending tomorrow. Well, I feel like we're there again, but now when we're talking about all this legacy, I feel like that fits more of an affluent client, somebody that's already got a legacy, already got the stuff in motion. But what about the people that are living paycheck to paycheck, buried in debt, and they're seeing everything that's unfolding in the economy, wondering, oh my God, how much worse can it get? And I can definitely tell you it can get a lot worse, and it more than likely will. So how are you talking to people about the current state of the economy, what they should be doing, how they should be preparing? Because listen, for people like me, you, and a bunch of the other folks listening to this podcast, it's going to be an amazing opportunity because listen, during a recession, during a declining economy, everything goes on sale, things become cheaper, things become more readily available. You can get more talent, out there because it just opens it all up. The floodgates, I guess, break open. But for other people, they just feel trapped right now. And, I've been doing a lot of work in our webinars and all the stuff we do of preparing people for what's going to happen and what, how to just be on the right side of it so that it can be an opportunity. I know I've lived through many recessions as a financial advisor. I was always on the wrong side of it, always, a buck short and a day late. And this time I'm not going to be there. And I want to take as many people along the ride of being on the right side of it where you're ready for it. And it does look like an opportunity instead of just a tragedy. How are you looking at this?
So, well, I want to add a few things to that too. I mean, the amount of people who took out PPPs, EIDLs, and took money, which I'm a fan of the EIDLs. I mean, that was 3% money and 30-year notes. Are you kidding? I said, get as much as you can.
Same here.
And then use that and arbitrage it in debt and use it to make money. Use it as an absolute benefit. The problem is most people don't understand debt, right? Let's break it down. Debt's the cost of money. You're either on the right side of that equation or you're on the wrong side of that equation. So, and I don't believe in total debt debt elimination. I think it's debt management. And where I focus most of my clients getting through this is they have to make more money. And it's not just a job. So it's not get a second job, third job. It's not the Susie Orman talk. It's what's the part of your...
Thank you for bringing that up because that is what Susie Orman tells people.
Oh, no, it's not. You're not going into job land. You're actually going to become an entrepreneur. So you control your money, your upside, because as an entrepreneur, you have an unlimited upside, right? And most employment jobs, you're in a fixed income and you don't have fixed potential. So I go after what can you do to create more with your life and create more money, and then not go pay off your debt, which is what most people do. They make it, they spend it, meaning pay off their debt. So I want you to make it, invest it, so you get the compounding power starting as early as you can, as fast as you can, and then we'll manage the debt. So I help them get, I have over 500, I'm sure I know you probably have the same resources, to get 0% debt. So we help them restructure it. We don't go through debt elimination programs or debt reconciliation programs like the National Debt, whatever, Institute. I mean, all those things are scams. In my opinion, I think they're overrated. The fees are hidden. People don't know anything about it. They just feel like, I just have one low monthly payment now. I don't believe in any of that. You got to be responsible for all of it. So if you overspent, you overspent. And the only reason you're in deep credit card debt is if you really think of the source. Yeah, this is stuff how you asked about my narrative of this is go make more money. Because the only reason you have credit card debt is you outlived your ability to make money in your job. So you put the rest of the life that you want on a credit card. So if you just learn to make the money you want, you're never going to have debt. You can buy what you want. You can have what you want. You can invest what you want. The pattern that I work on the most is make and invest and then manage your debt, right? Versus make, spend. And then one day you'll start investing. You've got to start the investing cycle immediately. And one of the things I said, like in my Make Your Kids Millionaires book, is the minute those kids are born, day one, open a Roth IRA and load it up and fund it every year. So that's one of the gifts I do to my kids. I make sure every year since they were born, they were funded into their Roths. Missed a few years during some of our travel, during just being out of the country completely. But for the most part, if you just from 0 to 20, if all you did is max out the Roth component and do some really strategic investing, like probably the most strategic one I did is I bought Bitcoin at 4 and 9 in mine and my kids' Roths. A lot of it. And then just, between 4 and 9 just kept buying. And so, those are well into 6-figure accounts. So you can make your kid a millionaire in 20 years by just funding their Roth. That doesn't make them responsible or smart. But you got to do some stuff. Back to your broader economy question, I highly focus on making more money, really educating around more strategic, and I'd say recession-proof investments. There's no such real thing, but you and I know it's a key word to have them start thinking what's going to happen, to start really looking at what they have, putting more money away versus it's amazing to me how much people are spending right now.
It blows me away.
My son just got married in Nashville, Tennessee, just outside. And it's amazing that many people are on Broadway spending the kind of money that you see spent. And it's like, do they make it or is this all on credit cards? because we're about to go through a very interesting cycle that was not set up. And we could probably talk a little bit about Trump and the economy and the tariffs, because most people they're going to feel the pain during his administration.
And they're going to blame him for it.
Correct, but they should have blamed the last 8 years.
Exactly. Yeah, I was just reading the headline right here, and it's just more blame, blame, blame. It's just interesting how that works.
Nope, he's actually fixing it, but to fix the problem that was magnified to the degree that the last administration could not have tangled up this world. And I say world, but really,
The obstacle is the way. It's the only way.
it is. It's going to be rough to get really good. And people don't realize that. They don't realize the trend has to go that way to get it fixed, because they don't know how to fix, because they don't own a company and they've never been an entrepreneur. So again, numbers don't lie, data doesn't lie. So I always say, you got to lean in and learn, get educated. Instead of getting scared and lean back, which is most of both people do, like, oh my God, this is happening to us. Get over that and get into, well, what am I going to do about it, and get mindful about it.
I love that. Love that. Well, as we kind of get to the end of the podcast, I know
we could talk like for 2 days. So
but before, everybody always loves, stuff that they can use and it's tangible. So I know we were talking a little bit about something you wanted to offer my audience. Do you want to talk about that right now?
Absolutely. So of my 6, I can't give you this one. This one's still under the command of the publisher. But my original 5, the Millionaire Maker, the Cash Machine, and Wealth Cycle I just mentioned. Put More Cash is one I did during the 2008, 9, 10, just to help families learn to make $500 to $1,000. So Put More Cash, I call it my really beginning entrepreneurial book, because it's just how do you get into making $500 to $1,000 extra a month, which some of you may say, well, that's not a lot of money. It's more than you probably have ever made on your own. As an entrepreneur, most of you haven't done $1,000 consistent month, much less a $10,000 consistent month, much less $100,000 or $1 million in a month, which I've hit all of those numbers. So, and then my Yes Energy book that I did with Hay House. So you get my 5 books. It's all on ebooks. You are getting my free session in the Millionaire Maker book. When you get this, read this one first, no matter who you are. On chapter 3, there's what's called a gap analysis. So you're going to do these gap forms, where you are, what do you want, and then you can have a free session just to talk about where your gaps are and where your problems are, because we're going to see more than you see. And then the biggest thing I'm going to do is once a month I do an event now. It's called the Millionaire Intensive, which talks about how do you become a millionaire. How do you actually secure the corporate structure and trust structure? We talk about that. And then we talk about what's your offer? How are you going to go make some more money? So people that are employees go like, well, I don't have an offer. Said, sell someone else's stuff. I mean, is what I did in my transition. I sold Kiyosaki. I sold the Rich Dad Poor Dad brand for 5 years before I became my own brand of the last 25 years. So selling someone else's stuff, direct sales, all of that is easy. Or take your skill sets, put a business around it. Do whatever you need to do. But so we teach you how to make money, and then we put you into a 3-hour marketplace. And there's usually 120, 150 people in this room. So you can imagine, Chris, we have all these Zoom people and teaching them how to sell and pitch each other in a very strategic way. It's not a mess. We've been doing it now the whole time during the pandemic. We went from doing it twice a month to now we do this once a month, and we usually get about 1,000 people registered, a couple hundred show up, and then by the time the marketplace comes around, there's about 100 people. So you get free names and numbers, phone numbers. You get to sell your stuff. I've had people make $7,000 during the marketplace. So I'm going to give you 2 tickets to the marketplace, all 5 books, and a free one-on-one session with my team.
That's
all those
fantastic.
things.
And we're going to put all that info in the description of this podcast, folks. So I know listening, you're like, how do I get it? The link will be in the description. So just click that link and you get all that. That's a phenomenal offer.
Well, and then also what you're on, since we talked so much about legacy, is what we did is we put the 3-day course, the follow-up 1 year and the follow-up 2nd year, all into a nice legacy product. And so they could, I think that's only like $197. So just ask the team when you call and talk to them if you want to get the legacy book, which you love this book, Chris. The first page on here, it says, first page, this is what you're going to fill out. I'm dead, now what?
That is perfect, because that's the way people need to think about it. I'm dead. Now what?
All these people, and here's my passwords, here's my codes, here's my wallets, here's my MetaMask, here's my crypto, here's everything I have, and it's all documented. And then this really becomes that vault that lives up high, with passwords. So it was fun putting that together, because people don't think about it, and it's time at some point you got to think about it.
I love that.
So it's been great to be here with you. We'll have to do this again.
It has. Yeah, we definitely got to do it again because we didn't even talk about oil and gas, which is a hot topic right now. We didn't talk about precious metals. These are all things in your wheelhouse that you love to talk about. But today we definitely focused a lot on the legacy side, which I think is a really important piece to talk about, especially with where we're at. I mean, now is the time to start planning, no matter what age you are. So, folks, please, if you didn't really catch that, go back, re-listen to this episode, drop a comment down. If it's something you want Laurel to answer, if you put it in, like if this is YouTube, if you comment there, I'll make sure she gets the questions. Like she said, if you're one of her clients, you get her cell phone, and that's not something I hear very often. And I'm definitely not giving my cell phone out quite as much. But yes, I love it. With that being said, Laura, what would be one final piece that you could give this audience that would help them to kind of get through the next few months and next few years of what's about to happen?
Well, two things really quick. I'm going to give you the link. So it's AskLoral, AskLoral.com/podcast. So that's where you can get all those goodies. And I would say how you're going to get through it is learn to make some more money. Like focus instead of what's happening in the negative and what you owe and, oh my gosh, it's, happening to me. Flip that entire energy to what can I do to go create? What can I create? And here's what making money really is in the way I teach it. What problem are you going to solve in someone else's life that you then are compensated for solving the problem and serving them? So think of it in a service-based way. How can you solve a problem? And women, I love being a woman teaching this, Chris, because women do it for free, and that is no longer you get to be a consultant. You're going to be an advocate, a guide, a coach, whatever you want to call yourself, but you're going to stop just chitty-chatting for free. And you're going to be very, very, get your guardrails and get very purposeful about the problems you solve. I'm really clear. I solve money and business problems, period. Could I solve other things? Could I do mindset coaching because I was in the secret duel? Yes, I won't. I stay super clear on what I do and where my guardrails are. And then I have people I refer out to the topics. People want me to teach them to sell from the stage all the time still. And it's I'm not going to do that. But I have 3 people I can refer you to, and they'll teach you to sell from the stage because that's just not what I want to do anymore, even though I'm really good at it. So I share those things. So I think people don't realize you just got to pick and go, and you can't be everything to everyone. And what problem do you like solving the most would be how I'd leave you in an inquiry, is what problem do you love solving for other people in their life that they would then pay you to continue to solve it? And you will have a business for the rest of your life.
100%. Give that link one more time. Ask Laurel. And then what was the rest of it?
AskLoral.com/podcast.
Podcast. All right. So again, we'll put that in the description, but you got it. With that being said, Laurel, thank you so much for your time. And folks, what she just finished with is so vital. If any of you have read Think and Grow Rich, listened to Bob Proctor or Earl Nightingale and The Strangest Secret in the World, you will notice one common theme. She said it. What can you create? That is the secret. Creation, your worthy idea. What problem are you going to solve? The bigger the problem, the more money you'll make. But in order to solve the problem, you have to be in a mindset of creation. I think that was some of the most valuable takeaways you could have taken away there. But you now need to go read Think and Grow Rich, read Bob's stuff, read and listen to Earl Nightingale. I don't care what you listen to, but The Strangest Secret in the World, the secret is so simple that it's always been in front of you. You've just ignored it up to this point. So go out there and create your perfect day. With that being said, folks, thanks for joining us for this episode of the Money School podcast. We will see you on the next episode.